Thank you for joining us today here on Winging It, Unscripted Conversations with the Hot Springs community, broadcasting from National Park College. The intent of this NPC podcast is to have informal conversations with different community members as a way of understanding their work in our region and highlighting their connection with the college. I'm your host, Dr. Derden, President of National Park College, and I'd like to welcome Mary Zunick, Director of the Hot Springs Sister City Program. Thank you for joining me today on our first podcast of Winging It.
Well, thank you so much. It's an honor to be your first guest. This is a huge privilege.
Well, I don't know about privilege, but you're welcome. I'm glad you're here. I am excited to have Mary with us today because she and I just recently got back from a trip to Japan together, and I thought this was a perfect opportunity for us to talk about it and some of the things that are about to happen in the city in relationship to it.
Yes, we had an amazing trip. I mean, there were 16 of us, such a great delegation too, from the city, from education, the library, and as always, the people of Hanamaki were so incredibly hospitable to us and kind and welcoming, and we brought back so much that we can share with the community, with you, with your students here, but it truly changes everybody just a little bit after that experience, I think.
I was certainly changed by it. I would never have in my life imagined having an opportunity to go to Japan. It just was not something that would be on my radar. I haven't really traveled outside of the United States very often, so it was just such a good opportunity. I enjoyed it immensely.
Well, and the Sister City Foundation, because our Sister City program is kind of made up of a couple of different components. There's the city part, and then there's a Sister City Foundation that's a nonprofit organization that raises funds to support educational and cultural exchange. And so they've sent teachers for many years, and this year they decided to go a little bit different direction with that educational component. So thank you for being willing to go and represent National Park College in your capacity here, and to connect with your counterparts in Hanamaki. So thank you for being willing to take a week away.
Absolutely. And I enjoyed Fuji University, which we visited. It's so different from what we do here. And I'm not quite sure I understand the complete educational picture of Japan, but it was a great experience and just a small campus in some ways, but also big and a big impact in that region for sure.
And I think it's like many aspects of the Sister City program. When you connect with someone from a completely different culture, you see what you have in common. I mean, you have the same goals as a university, but you do things a little bit different. And that's the beauty of going. You learn something from what you do the same and also what you do different. You can bring that back, whether it's here or the students who come or the adults or business, or there's an opportunity for everybody that's involved in the program.
Well, that's right. And just for our listeners' sake, Fuji University is private and has about 800 students, and all the students are focused on something in relation to business, like business or economics or business law. So it's very specialized. And then they have athletics. 90% of their students are athletes.
Which is incredible. What percentage here at National Park, do you know?
Not
to put
that,
you on the spot.
No, I don't know, but we enroll about 2,200 college students, and about 180 of them are athletes, so not 90%.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all.
Well, Mary, why don't you tell us a little bit about the history of the Sister City program, how it got started, and
Absolutely. I've been very fortunate to be the director of the Sister City program since 2016, so I've been around for about half of the program. The program began back in the early 90s. We became Sister Cities with Hanamaki, Japan. Like Hot Springs, Hanamaki is located in rural Japan. It's up in the northern part, about as far from Tokyo culturally as we are from New York City. A little bit slower pace of life, lots of arts and culture there. Also, the big thing, bathhouses. They are a tourist draw from all across Japan, but from Southeast Asia as well. People coming to take time, relax, and enjoy the thermal springs. So that's kind of some things that we have in common. And if you think back to the early 90s, what was happening in Hot Springs, we had just elected the President of the United States from Hot Springs, and the Japanese economy was booming. So I think we probably thought we had this beautiful connection, and I don't know, maybe the chamber, who was very involved at the time, probably thought we were going to have a Toyota manufacturer relocate here or something. But we soon found out that the program may have had business beginnings, but we really moved into more of an educational exchanges through student exchange and teachers. And that really has kind of been the backbone of our program since early on. So not until the last few years have we even had any business exchange. So,
right.
Yeah.
We did get to meet with some of the business professionals there, and I enjoyed that. There was a dinner we had with some of the young chamber members, and that was a lot of fun.
Yes, and we see that like Hot Springs, we're all dealing with downtown and how you keep your young people there or get them to come back after they've gone away to university. We see that we have so many things in common, and you can gather ideas from how they do things, and hopefully we share a bit of our wisdom as well in our experience.
Well, as I told our board of trustees at our most recent meeting, one of the things that I took out of the trip was just how we're all human. We're all trying to live and survive in this day-to-day. We all have our own issues, just like you mentioned, and we're just trying to find our way forward. And I think that's really important. It's too easy to sort of dehumanize people who are far away from you and not think about them, but they're just people like us trying to do the best they can.
Absolutely. The whole concept of Sister City started in the mid-50s during the Cold War era. President Eisenhower came up with this concept. I'm paraphrasing a bit, but if you take the politicians out of the mix and let people connect, let communities connect, that you find out that no matter what your differences are, which with Japan, they're substantial. I mean, different language, different culture, different religions, different everything, that you find out in spite of your differences, you really, truly have a lot in common.
That's right.
Whether it's business or we want our children to grow up in a more peaceful world and have opportunities. We like to laugh. We like to sit down and enjoy a meal and a drink together. I mean, there's so much that we have in common.
That's right. And they were very sociable. I mean, granted, we were on a trip and a tour, and we were getting a lot of attention, but it was so fun. I think one of the highlights for me was being a part of the Hanamaki Fall Festival Parade. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
The Hanamaki Matsuri. Matsuri means festival in Japan. It's a celebration of the harvest of fall, and it dates back over 400 years. So,
wow.
I mean, longer than we've even had the concept of being a country. And so when we go, our really special guests, and not only do we get to be there and slip in and watch the festival happen, but we are actually invited to participate, to walk in the parade, to be a part of those ancient traditions, whether it's walking in front of these brightly colored floats that members of the community get together and build every year, or to carry a mikoshi, which is a traditional Shinto, part of the Shinto culture. And some of the favorite memories, I was looking back through the photos, and there are some great photos of you with the children, with the children playing the shamisen, and they even, which is a stringed instrument, and you being a musician. Of course, they invited you to give it a try.
I did. I gave it a try. I don't know if I made any kind of sense with it, but I enjoyed it.
Well, and you have some new Nighthawk fans there.
That's right.
You had some little Nighthawk trinkets that you shared with some of the children. So those were just great images. So thank you for being such a good ambassador for Hot Springs to share a bit of our culture and to learn from theirs.
And I got to play some of the drums on one of the floats, which I was terrible at. There was a certain rhythm that they were keeping, and I just couldn't figure it out. And I'm a musician anyway, and so I was trying to figure out the timing of it, but it was very off rhythm, and I butchered it. The guy next to me who was walking me through it kept laughing at me. Cause
that's why I take photos. I have some great photos and video of you not being stellar at playing drums, but nobody was. So, I always think, that festival happens every year, and I think it's from something within, before children are born, they are attending that festival, so they're kind of absorbing those rhythms even from the beginning. So they get it. We roll into town for a week. It takes longer than that to learn that tradition.
Well, the drummers I've known would not be surprised that I was terrible at that. So tell us a little bit about what the future holds and such and what's going on.
We have a very busy fall. There's the Hanamaki Toy Museum is coming to Hot Springs, which Hanamaki Toy Museum, it was the brainchild, I think, of the head of Otomo Lumber. He's an entrepreneur. It's a family-owned lumber company based in Hanamaki. But they had a building in downtown Hanamaki that was like the center of the community downtown. And after the 2011 earthquake, there were some issues with it. It was closed. And so instead of just everybody throwing their hands up and going, oh my gosh, we have this building, that what are we going to do with it? That does sound kind of familiar.
Yeah.
Things that we could learn.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Otomo put together a group of investors, purchased the building, retrofitted it, and opened this iconic restaurant on the top floor again, which had been there. But they were looking at what could they do with these other stories of the hotel. And one of the ideas was to use their very high-end wooden products to create a wooden playland. It's called a toy museum, but it's really more of a high-end wooden playland. So they did it. And the community comes together and supports it. This great draw to Hanamaki that's brand new, nothing like it there. And so they've done this a few other places in Japan as well. They're bringing about a 25 by 25 foot prototype of it. They're shipping it to Hot Springs. 6 staff members are coming to Hot Springs, and our children, our families will get to come and enjoy it. They're going to be here for 3 weekends and in 3 different locations. So if you can't hit it one weekend, you can catch it somewhere else, or families may want to catch it all 3 weekends. Mid-America Science Museum, the last weekend of October, so starting on October 31st, actually, and then moving the next weekend to the Hot Springs Convention Center downtown, and then finally at the Garland County Library. So the thought is it's a trial run to see how our children interact with it, how they enjoy it, where they come from, to gather feedback and input. And if it goes well, you never know. Maybe we'll be the first site of a Hanamaki toy museum in the United States. So, but just another connection to our sister city. In the fall is also a very busy time for student exchange. We have 2 different student groups coming this fall as well.
Okay.
Junior high group, and then later on the end of November, a group from Hanamaki Higashi High School, sister school to Lakeside. So it's a packed fall. The Toy Museum folks roll into town October 23rd. And so we'll have those 3 different delegations here, and the last group leaves December 6th. So really a lot of traffic and a lot of activity from Hanamaki between now and then.
That sounds amazing, and I'm definitely going to go see the wooden toy exhibit because we had the opportunity of visiting that toy museum while we were in Hanamaki.
And it's not a museum.
It's not really. It's a playland. It really is. And I know that thinking back to when my kids were younger, they would have just loved that, especially when you think that we have Mid-America Science Museum, which we spent a lot of time in. This seems to match up with that so well. It's hands-on, it's entertaining, it's fun. I can't explain it over the radio, but there are just little nuances to how they've got that set up that are so interactive and fun.
Yeah, I think it's the perfect combination. When my kids were little, you want something that encourages creativity, makes them think outside the box a little bit, that's just simple. There's no computers, there's no bells and whistles. It's just using your imagination.
That's right. I only discovered this on my way out of the museum because one of our colleagues who was on the trip with us pointed it out to me, but there's a portion that's like a forest, and it's these trees. And there are little holes in the trees, and they have little magnets. And if you put the little magnet in the tree, you can pull a wooden worm out of the tree. It's just so simple, but so tactile and fun.
Exactly. Because like Hot Springs, Hanamaki is up in the mountains. They have lots of trees. And of course, a lumber company. They want to educate the next generation about the importance of our forests and all of the creatures there and all of the beautiful things that are created from the forest, from the trees, and to really celebrate that. So I know the trees with the bugs are my favorite part too.
I know. It was so fun. And so simple. So many of the things in there were just simple.
Right.
And I just remember, all my kids are pretty much grown. My youngest is 15 now, but 10 years ago, that would have been quite a place to be at for us.
Well, the delegation of 15 of us who visited the museum, I think we all played.
We did. We played.
I had to meet a little bit to talk about plans for this, but everybody else just played.
Oh, yeah. I laughed out loud several times. It was fun.
It's a good place to bring your kids or just come check out for the adults too.
Yeah.
We'll let the kids cut in line in front of you though, because we really want the kids.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I won't be shoving any kids out of the way. Don't worry. No. Well, I was thinking about the education component, and of course, I went there partly to meet with Fuji University, but we also had some of our delegates who met with elementary school professionals, and I thought you might talk about the education side of it a little bit more and some of the connections we've had in the past and such.
Actually, we have several sister school connections in Garland County. Some of the schools participate in exchanges, like ASMSA has a sister school, Lakeside, where delegations come specifically to those schools, but from the very very beginning. They came with the very first, when this agreement was signed, was a junior high group of students. So 14-year-olds. I mean, such an impressionable time in your life. So those students come here and spend a week. And that's the group that's arriving on the 28th of October. And they stay with host families. They visit the schools, but I always tell the host families, it's about education. We want them to come see our schools, but it's about culture too. We want them to find out what life is like as an American teenager. And in the summer, we reciprocate. For many years, we just received students. So they could come share their culture with our kids, but we didn't send any students until about 2009 when we've had an organized program where each year we send a group of delegates or ambassadors. I mean, we really want to approach it from that regard too, so that students from all across Garland County that are 8th through 11th grade can apply to be a part of this delegation. And it's not just you sign up and you get to go and your parents write a check. No, there's an interview process, there's an application, there's an interview, and we really want to send our best, our brightest, our best representatives of who we are in Hot Springs, in Garland County. And so they go and spend a week there and share our culture with them and share bits of our educational system and learn and hopefully bring that back to their fellow students as well. And we've sent teachers in the past. And even several years ago, we sent a group of culinary students from National Park College. So
That's great.
Yep, it was National Park Community College then,
Right,
I think,
that's right.
in the old days.
Yeah, that's right. Another thing that we did there is we went to a sake museum and learned how sake is made, which I thought was fascinating. I watched that video and just thought it was fascinating. And so I thought you might talk about that connection now that we have origami sake in town and how that kind of happened.
Yes, absolutely. In 2012, I wrote a grant. It was all about encouraging Sister City business connections. So some tourism and Metro Partnership leaders went from Hot Springs to Hanamaki, and we traveled around, visited the bathhouses. We visited a winery because we have a cooperage here. Just looked at different ways. One of our last visits was to a sake brewery in Hanamaki, and the owners of that, the brewers, said, "Why don't you send an intern here?" So it's like things started ticking. You know, we have water, great water. We have rice. We're the #1 rice producer in the state. So we kind of came home and started looking for this person to go there that wanted to live in Japan for a few years, wanted to speak Japanese, all of these different elements. And it was a tall order. It took us about a year, and we just happened to connect with someone who reached out to me who already was interested in sake, had a wonderful background. So we connected Ben Bell with our friends in Hanamaki. Bad news was during that period of time, the brewer passed away that had made the offer. So then we had to start from scratch on the other end. But he went there, he lived there, he learned a tremendous amount. Nambu Bijin is a very well-known and respected brewery within Japan and very near Hanamaki. Hanamaki has a rich history in the sake industry. It's where a well-known and respected Toji or Brewers Guild is. And so through that connection, through the support of our sister city, we could offer that wonderful opportunity for someone to go and live there and learn, come back. It took a few years, but then an investor came along interested in it as well. And that connection is still there between origami sake with Matt Bell, no relation to Ben Bell, but Ben is definitely a leader and part of the team there. So we have the largest domestically owned sake brewery in the United States right here in Hot Springs.
That's pretty cool.
Thanks to that connection and support, ongoing support with Nambu Bijin and with our friends in Hanamaki who are so proud of our success.
That's right.
You know, that's one wonderful thing about the program. I mean, we celebrate each other's success. We try to help each other when we're having obstacles. You know, they've had their natural disasters there, just like in the United States. And so we, you know, support each other in bad times and help boost each other to success. And origami is certainly a brilliant example of that.
Right.
And so now we also have, since the brewery is here, the milling equipment was moved here. So we now have 2 new industries for our state. Very much a huge thanks and debt of gratitude to our friends in Hanamaki for those connections and support.
Well, that's excellent. It's a good story, too.
Yeah.
A good success story. Well, we're almost out of time, but I thought I'd give you an opportunity maybe just to talk real quickly about maybe what's your favorite memory from all the trips that you've been on
Wow, that's a big one. Like you, the festival is magic. I think one of my favorite memories was probably my third delegation. We always go for the festival. And I was walking down the street in Hanamaki, which is filled with people. Everybody comes out, little kids, old people, everyone. And I was walking down the street and looked around, and there was no one like me. I was completely swallowed up in the culture and the sound, the music. And it occurred to me, first of all, that what a privilege it was to be there and be included in that and be able to slip into that culture for a few days. And then also the continuity of that festival. It's the same music every year, the same dances, the same adherence to that culture. And to be able to experience that is something very special that many Americans don't have the opportunity. It's not a tour, and it's really a life-changing experience. And I think it's such a privilege for me to get to experience that, but for me to be able to take other people from Hot Springs there and allow them to experience that magic as well, and how it impacts the rest of their life. And hopefully through the Sister City program, people learn that if they find something they have in common with somebody as different as speaking a different language and culture, maybe they can find something in common with the people that live across the street or around the corner that don't have the same religion or the same, and in today's world, the same political beliefs. That if you can find something you have in common with someone so different, maybe you can find something in common with the people closer to home.
And that sounds like a great way to wrap up this first podcast of Winging It. So thank you, Mary, for being here with us today.
This was such an honor. Thank you so much.
Well, I really appreciate you spending the time. And thanks to all of you for listening to Winging It. New episodes are released every month. Until next time, this is Dr. Wade Derden reminding you there is a place for all of you at National Park College.